In late August of 2013, Coz Green tipped the scale at nearly 400 pounds. He suffered from a number of physical ailments and pain. Everyday life had become a real challenge. His condition reached a tipping point. He was finally sick and tired of being sick and tired. Coz took massive action. He lost 200 pounds in 1 year. His physical transformation is filled with stories of personal triumph. But that is not the real story. Coz has been on a lifelong journey to discover the principles that unlock the powers of hope. Throughout his life, he's enjoyed many successes, both personally and professionally. However, Coz has also traveled through dramatic, dark nights of the soul, his private hell. He shares his personal battle with depression and anxiety. His greatest failure became his greatest blessing. Following a miraculous event, Coz began rebuilding his life. Coz shares thoughtful stories and valuable lessons he's learned on his journey back to bless lives throughout the world with this message of hope. Coz will guide you along his journey, from darkness into light, from overwhelming defeat to amazing victories. Coz opens up and shares his own story with sincerity and vulnerability.
It was at that time, right then and there, that I decided not only was I going to live for my kids, for Megan and Ben, and for their kids, and try to break this cycle, but also I didn't want them to go through what I did. Because at the time of that happening, they didn't know anything about my mom, and they didn't know anything about me. It wasn't only until recently that I told my own children about my experience, and that was very healing. But to realize that...
I'm sure it helped them too.
Yeah, you know, I was really afraid. I was really afraid to ever tell my kids...
You've always got to keep the strong front for your family.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what your mother did too.
Yeah, you would have never known. But after she passed, and after my experiences, and I started talking to aunts and uncles and cousins, I just realized that everybody has their stuff. And it was a lot easier for me to go through that healing process, knowing I wasn't alone, and that there were a lot of good people to help. You know, emotionally and spiritually and mentally I was exhausted, but physically I was exhausted as well. Now, some years ago I had participated in half marathons, mini triathlons, a lot of 5Ks, 10Ks, but just my lifestyle and those thoughts of depression just slowly got me in that downward spiral. And so
food became the drug of choice.
Yeah, food was my drug of choice. I mean, it really was a comforting escape from the real world. And I found it in sugar and flour and those white poisons that we're addicted to in this country. And, you know, I'm embarrassed to tell you, but I was addicted to food. Yeah. And I found great relief in food. So those pieces of metal and splinters of metal in the oil were actually parts of the engine. And so I don't know when it was, Skip, if it was 30 seconds or 1 minute, just in time, that engine threw a rod, killed the engine, and saved me from being asphyxiated. Now it took...
Imagine the synchronicity of it.
Well, I mean, you and I both know what that means.
That's incredible.
But when I had that experience, when the mechanic looked at me and said, well, you threw a rod and it killed the engine, and I'm putting the time frame together, as I had faded into black because of the sleeping pills, I figured it was all over. But somebody had a higher purpose. I think best acronym for ego is edging God out. And I had edged God out, and I thought it was about me. But after this experience, and not right after my suicide attempt, this has taken 5 years, I now recognize that it's not about me. It's about thee. That somewhere in this world today, there's somebody standing in line at a Walmart buying that expandable dryer hose and duct tape, and they're on their way home. If I can just help one person have enough hope that they just make it one more day so that somebody else can help them make it one more day, and we all work together. So I've always felt some purpose to be the best father and husband that I could be, and that's still my number one priority. But outside of that, what drives me and compels me and gives me great drive is to recognize that no one does it alone. And somewhere out there is someone who just needs hope. And what does that simple little word mean? And it means something different to every single one of us. But just that simple word, to look somebody in the eye and say, I just want you to know there's hope.
And you're not alone.
And you're not alone can change lives and can help them. And at first I was pretty reluctant to tell my story because I was embarrassed. Mm-hmm. I thought I had achieved some great things in life, and to share the dark side or those things I thought would really jeopardize my brand or my professional credibility. But when I recognized that in certain situations, in business or in personal life, when I would share just a little piece of the story, not telling the whole story, but maybe just a little piece of it to show them that I was going through tough times at one point in my life and I found some answers, it didn't drive people away. It actually helped the connection, that I was real, and the more I was vulnerable, the more authentic I felt my relationships were with people. And that just kind of started the snowball to where I really had an awakening. But it didn't come in an instant, and it didn't happen in a season, but really it took about 4 years to fix what was going on the inside.
Yeah.
And once I got those things in alignment, that my actions and my behaviors and everything were consistent with those values and those principles that I'd grown up with, that I knew were right, it all started to come together. And then the physical was just a byproduct of the mental and emotional. Because we know whatever the mind harbors, the body manifests in some way. But as I realized what I was looking for, there were 7 principles that just leapt out of the page at me, that those are the principles of hope. And so my mission is to share those principles of hope in a very simple way. And so is it to rescue people from suicide? I don't want that just to be the message.
Of course.
I want those people to know that there is hope, that there is help, that there is a road to a better day. But I also want those that are just seeking purpose, those that are trying to overcome their fears, those that are trying to find that self-acceptance, that self-forgiveness and the forgiveness of others, to be able to take that passion along with that purpose to serve other people, and then to just keep on keeping on. That being the last leg in that 510-mile journey was just an amazing experience. When I got home that night, I wasn't tired. I wasn't exhausted. I was actually more energized, and there was a feeling in my heart for the first time in a long time that, you know what? I can do anything that I can believe I can do. Yeah. And I didn't think I could do that. Wow. And instead of saying, well, no, I can't do that, I said, why not? And I opened myself up to the possibilities, just broke it down into bite-sized pieces, disciplined myself to do it day in and day out, whether I wanted to or not, and I was able to do it. And that helped me recognize that I had shortchanged myself so much in my life. I had achieved some worldly success and done some great things. But I was capable of so much more, and I had allowed myself to be the victim. I had allowed myself to have some negative thinking and all those things that we know can only create a downward spiral. And then in my own perfect storm 5 years ago, it had gotten worse. But as I climbed back out of that hole and completed that ride for hope of 510 miles, in 5 event days, I felt like I could do anything.
I can imagine.
And for somebody else, that might not be a big deal. But for me, as somebody who's fought with my weight my whole life, I felt alive in this awakening. No, I believe that just through my story of being vulnerable, admitting my weaknesses, admitting my frailties, explaining how I came back, I believe that will help others find hope to go another day. And so I just want to be that person for somebody else. Somewhere out there, there's one person today who just needs to know that it's worth it. There's just one person out there that needs to know there's hope. There's one person out there that just needs to accept themselves for who they are and realize that no one has made it. I don't care if you're the CEO of a large corporation, you're a spiritual leader, it looks like you've got it all together. We all have our stuff. And we all just want more hope. I think I found some answers that might just help someone.